Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show.
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years.
So get ready! I mean, get ready! Are you ready for some football?
You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. A weekly podcast about sports since 2011. With a focus on football. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, here for episode 424 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, and I am not here by myself. I am joined by my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
You all right over there?
Yeah, just a little choked up
Just-
when I was checking my fantasy scores.
In a good way or a bad way?
Yes.
Yes, in all the ways, right?
Yeah.
Well, we might hold on in Yahoo maybe this week. I don't
We're
know.
now projected to not.
Oh, now we're
But
we're
it's
on
close.
the bad
It's
side.
very close. Yeah.
Oh boy, fantasy football, what can you say?
Yeah.
It's as crazy as the college football coaching carousel as that continues to turn. And Justin, I know we were talking about it beforehand a little bit just because, well, I'm sure as everyone's aware that's watching this show, Penn State does not yet have a coach for the 2026 season. But clearly everyone is taking the turning carousel with no hyperbole whatsoever. I don't know if you just...
Every fan base is taking this logically and rationally, and
Do you... I know we're not subscribers to The Athletic anymore because Audrey Snyder was let go, was removed from The Athletic coverage, which was one of the dumbest things they could have done because I immediately canceled my renewal and jumped to her Substack.
it's exactly what I did.
But The Athletic still sends me headlines through
yeah.
Apple News. Did you see the one that just came through about the
No, I
Lane
did not.
Kiffin... Lane Kiffin's move to LSU makes a mockery of college football, and the sport will never recover. As if we haven't been saying about everything that college football has done for the last 4 years, ruining the sport. And more people talk about how it's ruined, but the numbers
and more
say
people watch.
otherwise.
Right, exactly.
So, we could have an entire show discussing all of that. But, leave it
There's
to The
plenty-
Athletic.
Right, there's plenty for them to fix. There is.
I enjoyed The Athletic's
right.
coverage when
Yeah.
I read it, but they're just... it's the New York Times. Let's just leave it at that.
The
So,
idea that they started with, where they had just a collection of embedded reporters, so you weren't just running on these national bases, right? Like you had all the individual, I say local reporters, but embedded with teams and programs and cities and things like that, all in one hub was fantastic. And then they decided, for whatever reason, that, that's not the route we're going to go. We're going to go more on we'll cover the biggest sports programs, which is fine, but I can get that elsewhere for free. Maybe not the same level, but I can get that elsewhere for free. And at the same time, eliminate the in-depth coverage of the other programs. That is what was drawing me and people like you to the product. All right, thanks. Oh, and now I can go and get exclusively that. Oh, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And off to Audrey's Substack we went.
Yeah. And it kind of sucked losing the Phillies coverage over the summer and early fall. I was following Matt Gelb, and I believe they actually had a second writer added to the Athletic Philadelphia sports coverage, Phillies baseball coverage. And I read that some of the Dolphins stuff from time to time. I was really actually reading a lot of the Flyers stuff, even with how terrible they've been up until this year, which looking pretty strong start for them this year. But, once Audrey was like, hey, I'm going off on my own, jackpot.
Right.
Immediately.
Right, exactly.
And she has an article posted literally before the clock runs out in the game.
Yeah,
she has
she'll
her
have
initial
one.
reactions, and then she'll have a bigger, fleshed out version, usually by the next morning at the latest, depending on the time of the game. But but we're not going to talk college football this week. We talked a lot of college football last week. Penn State, in particular, coaching search.
Right.
We could talk about all that stuff going on. Hey, Penn State won again, 3 in a row. Looked awful against Rutgers. That team should be better than a 4-point win, and a lucky 4-point win because of a oopsie with the quarterback dropping the ball.
Literally dropped the ball. As they had already started their march down the field again,
Right.
where we hadn't stopped them.
But we don't have the time to dive into Penn State again this week.
Right.
We want to dive into NFL coverage because that's been the bread and butter of this show for the better part of 15 years now. And we want to get caught up on the 2025 NFL season. We haven't gotten to talk about it at all. Last time we talked pro football, Justin was back in June together. I did the preview a bit in July, but Natalie was on a show with me. So it hasn't been you and I talking professional football here in the United States for many, many months. So we want to talk about not just NFL Week 13, but a whole bunch. And we can't talk football at this time of year without diving in to Thanksgiving. Happy belated Thanksgiving to everyone. Hopefully you all had a fantastic holiday and holiday weekend, enjoyed Black Friday football. Maybe not so much if you're an Eagles fan.
Did not enjoy
I'm
it.
sure that will come up at some point, but we're super thankful for football and want to spend a lot of time.
I told you I am not thankful when Christmas is canceled.
Yes, that is how that went. So we will be talking all about that. Well, let's go right into Thanksgiving football, but not the games as they were played. We'll get to that shortly, and we also will talk about our surprising NFL teams for the year, both good and bad. But first, I just want a little history lesson. We'll throw up a little Philadelphia Eagles playing on Thanksgiving history lesson. Has not happened a lot, Justin, surprisingly, with the Cowboys being by and large the home base for Thanksgiving football, or one of the two home bases. The Eagles and Cowboys have only played on Thanksgiving twice, believe it or not.
I feel like that doesn't surprise me as much as of recent, because I look at when, generally speaking, I imagine that game is going to get great ratings no matter what. And I feel like you can kind of rotate through a game. Now, again, Cowboys Chiefs would get you great ratings no matter what. So it doesn't necessarily hold up against that. But just, I feel like it's just a little different. Like maybe they want to rotate through who those teams are that are playing on Thanksgiving.
So I'm going to put your history knowledge to the test here, and not just Eagles history or football history, but American politics history.
Gosh.
Do you? So the first two times the Eagles played on Thanksgiving was in back-to-back years, and they hosted those games.
Okay.
November 23rd, 1939, against the Pittsburgh Pirates, as they were known at the time, the last year as the football version of the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Eagles won that game 17-14. They would also host the Pittsburgh Steelers the next year, 7-0. That was November 28th, 1940. A couple interesting things of note there. Obviously, we're getting close to World War II.
Yeah.
And at that time, when that came down, the Eagles and Steelers merged
Yes.
to become the Steagles,
Right.
Which is interesting in and of itself, but not what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you, do you know what is interesting about Thanksgiving in those two games against Pittsburgh in 1939 and 1940?
Was it not the fourth Thursday of the year.
Correct. So that is what is
Or of
known
November, not of
what
the
is
year.
known as Franksgiving, named
Yes.
after Franklin Roosevelt, who decided to move
Yes.
Thanksgiving to the fourth Thursday instead of the last Thursday.
This is something I learned within the last year. Like, I'm 41. Yeah, I had to double check on that. I'm like, wait.
41
And-
and a half, getting closer to that
Getting
point.
close,
yeah.
getting close, yes. So I went the first 40 without knowing that. And in the last year, I learned that. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, so in 1939, President Roosevelt decided to give retailers more time
Yes.
between Thanksgiving and Christmas because in the midst of the Depression, let's get people shopping for an extra week before Christmas. Maybe that will help the economy. Of course, this was a politician doing something, so 100% of the
I was gonna
nation
say,
loved the
I'm
idea.
sure it went over real well.
No, it was completely split 50-50. If you supported President Roosevelt, you moved Thanksgiving to November 23rd. If you hated President Roosevelt, you celebrated Thanksgiving on November 30th. And the different professional football leagues did that exact thing. The NFL played on November 23rd, but the AFL or whatever other professional leagues were around then, not even sure it was the AFL, played on November 30th. So that was the decree in 1939, and then Congress got involved, which that's always wonderful when that happens, and actually became a federal mandate and signed into law in 1942. But yes, Thanksgiving has only been on the fourth Thursday of November, which more often than not, that is the last Thursday
Right.
in November. There's only two other dates it could be when there's 5 Thursdays in November, but so it always falls between the 22nd and 28th. Now that was not always the case until the Great Depression and World War II era. That's when this all came to be. But then, Justin, now this is Eagles trivia for you.
Gosh.
Do you know the significance of the November 23rd, 1989 Eagles victory at Dallas, 27-0?
Was that the was that the one with Buddy Ryan and the
Bounty Bowl.
Yeah.
The November game.
So I wanted to say Bounty Gate, but I knew that wasn't it. But Bounty Bowl is what that's referring.
Yeah, so
Yes,
that's a
yes.
string of 3 games. I had to research this
Right.
to get the full picture.
Right.
That game, there's supposedly the Eagles and Coach Buddy Ryan had a bounty on Jimmy Johnson's kicker, who had been with the Eagles, I believe, previously.
I think so, yeah.
And the Cowboys were terrible at this time. This was right before they became a very good team and launched into the America's team thing that people still talk about 30 years later. But the Eagles won Bounty Bowl 1 on Thanksgiving 1989, 27-0. They then won Bounty Bowl 2 in Philadelphia, I think like a month later or something like that. And then there was a follow-up called the Pork Chop Bowl because I think Buddy Ryan choked on a pork chop leading up to the game that week. The Eagles won all 3 of those games in 1989 and 1990. Of course, Jimmy Johnson, the Cowboys, would have the laugh last at that time because
Right.
they'd go on to be kind of a juggernaut in the early to mid 1990s. But the Eagles then played in one of the first night Thanksgiving games in 2008. I think that slate started in 2006.
Yes.
The Eagles hosted the Cardinals on November 27th, 2008. Won that game big, but I believe that was the year the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl, is it not?
So I think that is. I think
When
that
the Cardinals
is the
lost to
year-
the Steelers?
Yes. Yeah, and the Cardinals beat the Eagles in the NFC Championship game that year.
Yes. So
Because the Eagles beat them big on Thanksgiving, but did not they had to play in Arizona for the NFC Championship.
and it wasn't Arizona 9-7 or something like that.
Yeah. Those are the Kurt Warner
Yes.
teams where and Larry Fitzgerald and that offense was still clicking pretty good.
Now, the Eagles have not played on Thanksgiving since 2015, and that was actually a loss to the Detroit Lions. I do not remember that game whatsoever. A decade ago, the Eagles losing at Detroit 45-14 on Thanksgiving. I don't remember that at all. That's the last time the Eagles played on Thanksgiving.
Well, that would have been in the Chip Kelly era.
Would
right?
that have been his year? Okay. I mean, the Lions weren't good either. So
No.
the Lions only became decent this year. So because this is partially my show, we are going to talk about the Dolphins on Thanksgiving. My dad and I have always wanted to see the Cowboys-Dolphins play down in Dallas so he can visit Texas Stadium, or what used to be called Texas Stadium, AT&T Stadium. There was a potential of that happening a few years ago when they last played in Dallas, but then that game was announced for like week 2 or 3, so it didn't happen. But Miami and Dallas should play in Dallas again in 2027. So we're eyeballing that one. I would prefer it not to be on Thanksgiving because I don't want to do it on Thanksgiving, but I would like to go to the game. So hopefully it's some other time. But Miami has played often, actually more than Philadelphia, believe it or not, on Thanksgiving, just by one. Most recently, last year, they ruined my Thanksgiving night by choking to the Green Bay Packers, a team that I really don't like. So having to watch them play on Thanksgiving night and lose to Green Bay kind of sucked. But Dolphins are pretty decent on Thanksgiving. They've played the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving 5 times. Thankfully for my dad and mine relationship, it had once. The first one happened before I was born. The Dolphins beat the Cowboys 14-7 in 1973. They also beat the St. Louis Cardinals. Remember, this is still the time where there was baseball and football teams going by the same names, which is interesting because football trailed MLB in fandom and rankings and ratings. So
NFL games, well, not just NFL games, but like World Series games, NFL games, they weren't even shown live all the time.
Yeah.
You know.
So Dolphins won that one big in 77, 55-14. Then played the Dallas Cowboys 3 times in the next 10 years on Thanksgiving, and I remember all of these quite well. We'll dive into them momentarily. Most recently, the Dolphins have played the traditional Thanksgiving game in 2011. They lost to the Cowboys by 1 point. I definitely remember that one. That was a rough one in the household. But yeah, I thought that was just a cool thing to point out. Just want to reminisce about a few of them. I'm going to start with a more recent Dolphins victory on Thanksgiving, which was their last win on Thanksgiving in Detroit on November 23rd, 2006. I remember watching this one in my childhood bedroom, as this was while I was still at Penn State, but home for the holiday. Was watching Joey Harrington play quarterback for the Dolphins against the Lions, winning that one 27-10. And of course, we all know, Justin, what the significance of Miami-Detroit 2006 is. It's not Joey Harrington's homecoming. It is, of course, Taylor Swift was the halftime performance in November 23rd, 2006. Taylor Swift, halftime performer, Dolphins, Lions.
See, that's wild because in my mind, this is just me being old. I don't picture her as that big of a performer for the last 19 years.
Well, so she would have only been, not even 17. She was 16 for that performance, which is wild. It's just wild. And Kelly and I saw her open for Rascal Flatts not even 2 years later. When we lived in Indiana. But of course, one of my favorite Thanksgiving Day games was in 2003. Dolphins, wearing their beautiful throwbacks, went on to really beat the Cowboys handily. My dad and I were definitely going at each other's throat pretty hard that day. I remember my mom yelling at us on a few occasions. I believe we had Thanksgiving dinner at my aunt and uncle's, and the game was going my way, and I was making sure my dad knew it was going my way, as I want to do. Of course, as you saw in that stat I threw up there before, the Cowboys also have beaten the Dolphins a few times on Thanksgiving. In 1999, the Dolphins got shut out, and that was not a good Thanksgiving for me. But nothing can compare to Thanksgiving 1993, of course, the Leon Lett game.
Yes.
And looked like, the game was basically over when that Dolphins field goal attempt was blocked. But Leon Lett touched the ball. Dolphins recovered, got one more chance. Guessing that was Pete Stoyanovich. I should have researched it a little bit more. But Dolphins win that one 16-14 in, it looks like snow. It was actually an ice storm, I believe, an ice bowl on Thanksgiving, November 25th, 1993. That is one of my first professional football memories, is watching Dolphins Cowboys in the basement of my grandparents' house on Spring Street. and the entire family let my dad have it
Oh.
because everyone was there. This was full on May's Thanksgiving dinner, and me being the Dolphins fan and my dad being the Cowboys fan. Yeah, that was a good one. And I'm sure he doesn't forget it whatsoever. I'm surprised he hasn't texted me. I know he's watching, and I pretty much just did this entire first 15-minute session to build up to the 1993 games. So, all right. So let's dive into the current season and Thanksgiving games this year, which we had the Detroit Lions hosting the Green Bay Packers, the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, and then at night it was who hosted? Did Cincinnati host or did Baltimore host? I forget. Well, it was Ravens-Bengals with Joe Burrow returning at quarterback after missing most of the season with his early season injury. But I did not have a good handle on the way the games would go this year. I did end up picking Dallas to beat the Chiefs just because I always pick Detroit and Dallas to win on Thanksgiving. Thought for sure this would be the year Detroit would come to the rescue for me, but the Lions are struggling. Yeah. They're now 7-5 after the loss to the Packers. Amon-Ra St. Brown went out with an injury. They don't think it's super serious, though he may miss the game this upcoming week. Dallas turns around and has to play on Thursday again this week. I think they play the Lions, don't they?
Yeah.
So back-to-back Thursday night games on teams that are really going in the opposite direction.
Right. And the Lions really need a win, and the Cowboys are rolling right now and also need the win, but like they're trending in a way where it would seem like they would be favored in that game, I imagine.
Yeah, it's quite possible being because it's in Dallas, correct?
I don't know. I feel like it would be on the road.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know.
Because both of them hosted, so
just because Dallas has played 2 in a row at home, so to play 3 in a row at home would, I mean, it happens, but like that's just a lot in a row. But
I'm gonna pull up the schedule just to see. It is in Detroit, yes.
Okay.
This Thursday, December 4th, 8:15, Cowboys at Lions. So huge game. Cowboys have been trending in the right direction. They're playing really well, and honestly, like you got to give Jerry Jones credit for helping to fix that defense because that was the problem.
Yeah.
Dak and the offense, by and large, were doing enough to win games. The defense was awful, and they made a few moves, and it has paid off. And a lot of people are giving Coach Schottenheimer a lot of congratulations or adulation for what he's done with the locker room, keeping them together. And, 2 big wins against the Eagles and Chiefs back-to-back. And now they could really make a statement if they beat Detroit in Detroit. And those are 3 straight wins against those teams. And I know the Eagles are struggling of late, and I know Detroit hasn't been that great, and Kansas City is a weird one this year, which I'm sure we'll talk about more in a few minutes. But, yeah, I don't know. What were your thoughts on the first 2 Thanksgiving games?
Yeah, so Detroit is just, I don't know. It seems tough. Like, they're obviously still, like, a decent team. Like, I don't want to make it sound like they're terrible and they could get things going again. But, like, it almost seems like, well, not almost. They were better the last 2 years than they were this year. 2 years ago, they were really close and couldn't get it done against the Niners in the championship game. And then last year, their defense was just decimated. They just absolutely decimated. But also, it's just offense didn't come through at the biggest times last year when they needed it to, with the defense playing the way it was. Mm-hmm. That's hard to say in the playoffs because in the playoffs you're playing against playoff defenses too. Like you're playing against playoff offenses, but you're playing against playoff defenses too. So anyway, you have some of that, but like it's a step back this year. Even though they got like Hutchinson back on the line, so they added some pieces back and to not be, I mean, they're in 3rd place in the division right now.
Right. Wild.
The Vikings are bad, but
so are the Bears.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that shortly.
The Bears are in 1st place in the NFC right now.
I know.
And so you also have that. So like the Lions have an uphill battle right now, and it doesn't get any easier because they're going to be hosting Dallas. Dallas started off, close loss to the Eagles, but like those week 1 games, especially that Thursday night game, that is so
Right.
weird, But they lose that one. CeeDee Lamb couldn't catch anything.
Yeah,
At the
that's
same
true,
time,
yeah.
the Eagles, and this was his own fault, but the Eagles lose their best defensive player before the game
Something
even starts,
stupid, yeah.
technically. So it was just a weird game. Oh, and then there was a rain or lightning delay. Like, it was a weird game. But the Eagles won that one. Cowboys, rocky start at the beginning.
Well, yeah. So I pulled up their schedule. This is what's
Yeah.
happened so far. So they lost to the Eagles by 4.
Right.
Opening night game. Beat the Giants in overtime by 3. Again, defense couldn't stop anyone. Gave up
Right,
37 points to the Giants. That was Russell Wilson, not Jackson
Yeah.
Dart. Lost by 17 in Chicago to the Bears, which at the time you're like, ugh.
Right.
Bears are technically the number 1 team in the
Right.
NFC. Tied the Packers.
Yeah.
Weird, but okay. 40 points. Gave up 40 points.
Where they kind of like celebrated the tie too.
Well,
It was
right, well-
very weird.
Well, because
It
he
was very
lost to
weird.
the Bears, and
I know.
So that got
But,
them
like-
to 1-2-1. Beat up on the Jets, cool. Lost to the Panthers, and I think everyone was like, "Oh,"
Right.
but the
Panthers just beat the Rams today.
Beat up on the Commanders. Got beat up by the Broncos.
Was it Commanders without Jaden Daniels though? I think it was.
44-22. Did he get hurt in that game?
He's been in
Yeah,
and
he's been
out.
in and
It's
out
hard to
so
know.
much this
so like
season, yeah.
I think he was back for that game, but like he was dinged up. I don't know, but
Yeah, because the photo. Yeah, Jaden Daniels was 12 of 22 for 156
so he was
yards
back,
and a
but
touchdown.
just not very good.
So, but then when they got smoked by the Broncos, I think that was when people were like, "Oh man, like,
Right.
what's going on here?" I'm back in 2024.
Right.
I hate when Google
Yes,
does that.
I know.
Broncos, yeah, they lost by 20 to the Broncos at the end of October, and then they lost to the Cardinals. That like those back-to-back
That Cardinals
losses.
one is
Yeah, that
a
was
bad
on
one.
November 3rd, but that was right before the trade deadline, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So they go out and make
then-
a few
and
trades.
then they have the bye.
They have a bye on November 10th or November 9th, and they come back against the Raiders on that Monday night a couple weeks ago
Right.
and beat up Las Vegas, which they should. And
They're
they
one
did.
of the worst teams in football.
Then I feel like they surprised some people by beating the Eagles, especially after being down 21-0.
Yes, being down 21-0 and winning that game was surprising. I look at it, and again, it's separate because the Eagles have their issues right now, and they certainly do. But like the Cowboys also still kind of barely won the game. I feel like some people feel like that was a blowout for the Cowboys, or like the Eagles were blowing them out and then they blew out the Eagles. No, the Eagles. Don't get me wrong. The Eagles played terrible after the first 20 minutes of the game. But, like, also, like, the Cowboys, Brendan Aubrey missed the field goal earlier in the game and clanked one in to win it. I don't know. It wasn't like the Cowboys didn't play great either, but they did enough to win. Like, they did well. But, like, I watched that game. I'm like, neither of these teams are very good right now. Does that make sense? Like, even though the Cowboys came back and got the win, and it was a big win, watching that game, you're like, oh, both these teams are not very good. At this moment, they beat the Chiefs, which is a good win, because the Chiefs need it. But again, like I'm just like, I don't know. And this is not Eagles and Cowboys specific. I look around the league. I just don't think there are many. I don't think there are any
There are
great
none.
teams.
There
aren't any great teams right now, which can be great in the sense of if your team makes the playoffs, you've got a shot. You know, which is obviously true every year. But like some years, it's
Some
like
years
you
more than
got
others.
a shot, but like, do you really? This year, I don't know. Like, who sneaks in there at 7 and has to play the 2? Like, depending on that matchup, like I don't know.
Right.
That 7 could get it done. But the Cowboys are trending in the right direction because they're winning their games, and like that's all that's important. And earlier, they're on a little bit of a skid here, but like when the Eagles are winning games and people are like, oh, well, they're not dominating. I'm like, you don't have to dominate. This isn't college
right.
football. This isn't college football. Win your games.
Right.
People are critical about how the Eagles were winning last year, and
it didn't matter
and
in
it
the
worked
end.
out, right? And so like you just win your games and then you get there. But the Cowboys are headed in the right direction, I feel like. And then you look at the night game. I have no idea what to think of the Ravens. They're just more of the same, where
Yeah,
they're like they can be Like in any time you flip them on, they can look like unstoppable. And anytime you flip them on, you might be like, this team is there with the Browns for the worst team in their division.
Right.
And it can be from one series to the next. It's rough. That being said, the Bengals, when you watch them, you're like, oh man, Joe Burrow's there, Jamar Chase is there, but
when he's not suspended,
right? And also, it's Joe Burrow trying to get rid of the ball as quick as he can because the line can't protect him ever.
Right.
They're gonna ruin him. But I don't know.
I did like Burrow's responses about playing in a meaningless game. He's like, basically, I'm paraphrasing, we're getting paid to play a child's game.
Right.
Why wouldn't I want to?
Right.
Why would you pay me and I would sit out when I'm healthy and can play? I know some people are big picture. This year means nothing, but I like that he's like, no, it still means something. I'm still a team player. I still want to win,
right.
And I'm getting paid a lot of money to play a child's game.
Now, if that means, and I don't know, there's so many sides to this. If that means week 18, Burrow's out there for the first half or, the game, but you want to get a look at some other guys or you want to let some other guys get some tape out there. I don't know. I don't know because do you really want to let guys put tape out there? Because, maybe you want to keep a guy on your roster and I don't know. But I can see why maybe in January, if they don't have a shot at the playoffs, why you wouldn't necessarily put him out there or expose him to extra risk. But I also understand. I am glad that he's going to make the team decide that, not him decide that. It's not him. It's very different when it's the team saying, hey,
right.
We've had a rough go of it here. We want you to hit the offseason healthy so that we can have a full offseason so that we can have, you go full speed when we hit training camp and into September. It's very different if the team is saying come the new year, basically saying, hey, we're going to shut it down here just to play it safe.
Right.
Then for Joe to be like, hey guys, sorry, I'm shutting it down.
Yeah.
It just feels different. And I know the product that we watch on that Sunday isn't any different if that happens, but it feels different to me anyway. If it's the team, because the team is the one responsible looking out for the longevity
the future,
of it.
right.
Which again, when you say it's the Bengals, I'm not.
Who knows
Right.
what's going on there?
They will have him out there heaving passes even if they're down 4 scores with 10 seconds left in week 18, getting crushed by whoever they're playing. But
all right, so
yeah.
That's the Thanksgiving slate. The Lions' loss to the Packers really is frustrating for me because the Lions have been inconsistent the year. So have the Packers. And I said this to you, and I'm going to stand by it. I didn't think the Packers adding Micah Parsons made them this juggernaut, this team to beat.
Right.
But the problem is, for me on that, is that there is no team out there that is the team to
Right.
beat. Everyone thought the most recent over the last 2 weeks, it was the Rams. Well, guess what? They went to Carolina and lost today.
Right.
We have one part in the first 6 weeks, it was the Colts. Guess what? They're not even in first place in their division anymore.
Right.
So, speaking of which, and maybe one of these is changing now, as I just mentioned it. Some surprising teams, Justin.
Yes.
If they're bad because of an injury, I try not to ding them too much.
No, it can still be surprising, but
like the Bengals and Burrow, because I thought they would be challenging for a playoff
but
spot.
if you told me that Burrow's going to miss a month and a half to 2 months, nobody's going to expect them to be there.
Right.
So
I pulled out. I have 8 logos up here.
Okay.
Good surprising and bad surprising. If there's others, you can feel free to jump in.
That's fair.
But I'm just going to go in order by the logos. And up first is the good surprising. Well, not good for me,
Okay.
but good surprising being the New England Patriots.
Yes.
And quarterback Drake May. They looked better at the beginning of the year, even when I started, they start 1-2 or something like that. And
But they got smoked by the Raiders week 1, didn't they?
Did they get smoked by them? I don't remember that being a.
Maybe they didn't. But
I mean, you're right. They did definitely play them in week 1. I'm going to pull up the full schedule so that we. I know it wasn't a great start to the year,
right.
but after the last few years they've had, How bad was it really going to be?
Right, exactly.
They lost 20-13.
Okay. So they didn't get smoked.
in week
I mean,
one.
it's relative. Losing by 7 to the Raiders is kind of like getting
Yeah,
smoked,
in
but-
New England. Yeah, what's
Right.
like that is a weird loss because next week they went to Miami and Miami almost beat them. It was 33-27. The Dolphins were coming off an embarrassing loss to the Colts, who are a team I didn't think was going to hit 500 this
Right.
year. That loss was looking actually a lot better up until a few weeks ago. So the Patriots moved to 1-1. Then they lose to the Steelers by a score to drop to 1-2. But they have not lost since then.
Right.
They smoked the Panthers, who are like an average to above average, maybe good team depending on the
I
day.
don't. Yeah, they're on there. So
They
I'll let that go.
Beat the Bills by 3 on October 5th, and I think that's when people were like,
Oh.
"Oh,
Right. Yes. That's when they got my attention.
right." And then they beat the Saints, who Saints are not very good.
Which, to be fair, they're not up there, but that other team, the Bills, could be a team that's on there too. Now,
Yes.
they're getting it done tonight.
It's
I
all
believe.
relative, right?
Yes.
They Patriots then beat the Titans, beat them by 18. Same thing against the Browns, won by 19. Squeaked past the Falcons,
Right.
24-23.
So there you hit the stride of. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, they are doing really well. They also who's their second best win? Their best win is very clear.
Their best win is over the Bills.
Right.
Because so far they lost to the Raiders, beat the Dolphins, lost to the Steelers, beat the Panthers, beat the Bills, beat the
So-
Saints, beat the Titans, beat the Browns, beat the Falcons, beat the Buccaneers in
Yeah.
Tampa. But I believe there was a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Bucks
And also, the Bucks have fallen off and are just right around 500.
beat the Jets and then scraped and clawed to beat the Bengals
Right.
before playing the Giants tomorrow night. So
I feel
you're
like
right.
their
They
second
haven't
best
not beaten
win
a
is
very either the
this-
Panthers or the Bucks.
The Panthers right now. Like, it's hard to say because at the time, it's probably the Bucks overall. I feel like looking at it right now, I might say Panthers, but like, it's hard to unseat the Bucks from.
So we'll. I don't. I'd assume they will win Monday night against the Giants.
I would assume
but any given Sunday or Monday,
Right.
We'll see what happens. But I
that. Or
assume they'll win
Thursday or
that game.
Friday.
Then they got two ones that should tell us a little bit more. Though with these two teams also being weird this year,
Right.
does it tell us more? They have to host the Bills on December 14th. Oh, so that means they have a bye the next week. They have a bye after the Giants game.
Wow.
Late bye. So Patriots are late bye. Then they host the Bills before going to Baltimore on December 21st.
Right.
But then they finish with the Jets, who are not playing
On
for
the other
anything.
hand, if they beat the Bills, man, they're going to be close to locking up the division.
Well, they then can finish with the Dolphins in New England on January 4th, and that may not mean anything for New England. And believe it or not, it could actually mean something for
Yeah.
the Dolphins. They managed to win today, my Dolphins. They looked like they were trying to give the Saints a win, which is very, very frustrating. But the Dolphins play at the Jets this coming week before going to Pittsburgh. Happy early birthday to me. A Monday night game against Pittsburgh 3 days before my birthday. But then they have the Bengals, followed by the Bucks and the Patriots. So the Jets game is a winnable game, and I would say you should win. Bengals with Burrow back, I don't know.
They barely
At
beat them
Pittsburgh,
without Burrow.
right.
Wait,
Well, they didn't play
no,
him yet.
No. Sorry.
That was the Patriots who barely
I
beat
was
him
thinking
without
of the
Burrow.
Browns, too.
Yeah. So who knows? Do I want the Dolphins to actually make the playoffs? Probably not, because they're not going to win anything.
Hey,
in
you
the
never know,
playoffs.
man. Never know.
No, you know. So that's that. So that's New England. Good team, very good team in a weird year.
I feel like you sent this message to Adam and I just a couple weeks ago about the Dolphins. Like, how about how you might know something about being good enough to like keep
Right.
your coach,
Yeah.
but not good enough to actually do anything.
To do anything with it. Yeah, it's so. I mean, you're right. I don't know how good the Patriots are because look, they're winning their games.
Oh, 100%.
Credit to that. I don't want
And-
this to
and
become
they're
a
very good, but like even though they're very good, typically like we just flash back over the lifetime of this show when the Patriots are sitting there at what 9-2 or 10-2 or whatever, we'd be like, oh man, like here they are, same old Patriots, and I'm just like, yeah, they're good, but like I'm not sold on.
Well-
and again, I'm also there's been a Patriots fan who's been hounding me about this. And I'll say, I'll believe it when I see it when a Vrabel team doesn't collapse at the end of the season or in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, and I know there's some people who are Vrabel guys. I just am not, and I think it's because he's a Belichick guy, and like
An Ohio State guy.
Yes, like, so, and I don't know. Maybe they will. Drake May certainly seems to be the guy there, which is we talk about this all
That's
the time.
frustrating.
We talk about this all the time. The key is when you have that young quarterback, especially going in. Is this year 2 for Drake May?
Yes.
Right when you go into year 2 with a guy. The biggest thing after week 2, or not week 2, after year 2 is that you just want to know, like, oh, we've got our guy. You know, like we've got our guy. Like we're moving forward with this guy. We don't have to wonder, like, well, are we gonna look for are we gonna do the extension? Are we gonna, like, you don't have to think about all that. You know you've got your guy, and it feels like the Patriots certainly know they have their guy right now.
Before we move on to the Indianapolis Colts, we did get an email last week, Justin, before episode 423 when we talked Penn State coaching search. And, of course, that is from my Uncle Rich, originally from New England, now on his way south, being the snowbird self. He emailed us, so I'm going to read that now. Here we go. Quote, I heard that you were back to talking about the NFL. Is there anything new this year that you would like to talk about? I have a few suggestions that might interest you. Let's see. The Eagles are still winning, right, Justin? The Dolphins are still losing, right, Joey? The Jets are even worse, but who really cares? And oh, yes, the Patriots are doing just what you didn't want them to do. They are back to winning and have an MVP candidate. I'm not saying that they will win the Super Bowl this year, but they are working towards it. Right now, just making the playoffs would be good. Winning the division would be great. Winning the conference would be awesome. And winning the Super Bowl would be unbelievable. So what would you like to talk about? I will be listening. Well, Uncle Rich, we just talked about your Patriots, and color us unimpressed. That is the worst 10-win team or almost 10-win team I've ever seen. No, I mean, credit where credit's due. The Patriots have exceeded my expectations. That's why I have them on one of the good surprising teams, good being relative to my rooting interests. But, yeah, the Patriots are winning their games. That's what they're doing. They have a really bad loss to the Raiders. I'm not going to call the Steelers game a bad loss because Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh again this year, and that game was on the road. The Vegas one is weird. But, hey, you got to win these next few games. You got a bye week to prepare for the Bills coming to you, and then you get to go to Baltimore, which I believe has been a lot of the Patriots' kryptonite over the years, has been playing in Baltimore against the Ravens. So we'll see what happens over these next 2 weeks. Hey, you win those 2 games, I'm not really going to have much to say. I could still maybe try to take it away from you and say, well, Buffalo and Baltimore aren't what they were the last few years.
They win those games, and they're looking at the 1 seed.
They're easily looking at the 1 seed.
And the bye.
So we shall see.
And home field advantage when you're in New England, man, that...
Well, one of the teams that could have been challenging for them, at least before this weekend of games, like the Colts are surprising to me no matter what. They have started to hit a skid, though. They blew it against the Chiefs. They look terrible against who they lose to today.
Texans.
The Texans, who
now won 4 in a row.
Who started slow, and now they're picking up steam.
Oh, and also there's another team in that division that's not terrible.
The Jaguars, who now lead the division at 8-4.
Right.
We have some terrible good teams this year.
Yes.
Like, terrible. Is there anyone that actually thinks Jacksonville's any good?
No.
Look, I purposely left out Chicago from this group.
Right.
Because I think they are the most overrated. And overrated's wrong because I think there are a lot of people that like the Bears are the 1 seed in the NFC.
Right.
It boggles my mind. I got to pull up their schedule because I don't know if I've picked them to win a game this year when picking up, head-to-head games. I know Ben Johnson must be a magician because, I am not a Caleb Williams fan. I do not think he's a good quarterback. I didn't think he was a good quarterback when he was at USC. We've had this discussion years ago. I think it was complete fluff. And I don't think he's great.
He also doesn't look that good. When you watch the games, he's not like, I don't know.
So this is how the Bears season started. They lost back-to-back weeks to the Vikings and Lions. A ridiculous loss to the Vikings because J.J. McCarthy is terrible. Caleb Williams is better than J.J. McCarthy.
By a lot. which we also knew.
Which
Like,
we said that for sure. But the Vikings came back to win that game 27-24 to kick off the season.
When you throw 12 times and your team knows what play's coming because they're cheating, like, hey, maybe you aren't cut out to be an NFL quarterback.
Whew. Then the Lions obliterated them the next week. But now they've reeled off a bunch of wins in their last 9 games or whatever. Their only losses to the Ravens. They beat the Cowboys, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Commanders by a point. They beat the Saints, they lost to the Ravens by 2 touchdowns. They barely beat the Bengals, and that was a wild
Yes.
game. They beat the Giants, they beat the Vikings, they beat the Steelers.
Without Aaron Rodgers.
And now they beat the Eagles.
Right.
So they get to play the Packers twice in the next 3 weeks.
It'll determine
So
the division.
that will determine the division probably right there. They also have to play the 49ers and the Lions the last 2 weeks. So we will find out if the Bears are legitimate or not, because to me, they will be favored they should be favored in one of the final 4 games.
But would you be surprised
If they split with the Packers?
No, I don't mean this as in like, are you predicting them? What, they have 4 left? Is that what you said?
They have 5
They
left.
have 5 left. Would you be shocked?
So what are they, 9-3?
Yeah. Would you be shocked if they went 1-4 in those 5?
No, absolutely not.
Right. Exactly. Like,
Well, that's
and that's what we mean by like, there's no great team, right? There's no great team, because usually by Thanksgiving, if there's a team that has that many wins and is in first place in the conference, and I said, would you be surprised if they barely won any games the rest of the way? You say yes, right? But like, and doesn't apply just to the Bears. You know, like, again, we looked at that Patriots schedule, and it's certainly more favorable than that, than what the Bears have sitting out there. But like, you know, like, if you were to say going into December, the lead in the NFC, would you be surprised if they only win one more game the rest of the way? And with the Bears, I think I'm like, no, I wouldn't be surprised.
They
I
could
don't
lose
think
every game.
Right. Right.
The game that I didn't mention, or the one I said they would be favored in, is against the Browns. And while I don't think the Browns are a good team, the Browns have a very good defense.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Have played a lot of close games, especially the games that shouldn't be close. The Browns have
Right.
played
Well,
close this year.
they're like the inverse of the Chiefs now, because the Chiefs went on that wild run where in one possession or one score games,
Yes.
they were like 14-0 or something.
Right.
And now I don't think they've won one like that until recently when they beat
Regression to the mean.
Right, exactly. And maybe the Bears, this is their year to do that.
Right.
And maybe it'll carry them to the divisional round or something like that. But
it would not surprise me at all if the Bears get in to the playoffs
And lose
in the first round.
immediately, yeah.
Right. Or if they get that 1 seed, if they lose in the divisional round, you know.
So the opposite of the Chicago Bears, which weren't even on there as my
Right,
list of surprising
right.
teams
Sorry.
because I don't consider them a good team.
Yeah.
The team that has bucked my expectations to be very good and have me a believer are the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Which years ago with Pete Carroll and the losers they had on defense, and really just Richard Sherman, because I liked Earl Thomas, but I'm okay with the Seahawks. Like, Sam Darnold is a weird one to me because I hate him for being the USC quarterback when Penn State couldn't stop anyone in the Rose Bowl and Saquon went nuts, but Sam Darnold still was able to pull it out and
you
win
mean
that
one
game.
of those wins I referenced last week where people put it on Franklin,
Right.
even though people say he interferes with the offense. The offense put up, what 40-some
40
points?
some points, yeah.
Like, that wasn't on the offense.
Yeah.
That wasn't on the offense.
Oh, let's not divert into a James Franklin discussion after last week. The Seattle Seahawks, because I was not a fan of Geno Smith, but you know who I was less of a fan of? Sam Darnold as an NFL quarterback. I know he had that great run with the Vikings last year, but then kind of got exposed the last like 3 or 4 games,
right.
especially the final 2 or 3,
Although, again,
including the playoff game.
right now, how many people in that Vikings locker room do you think would sign up for
100%
for
of
Sam
them.
Darnold
100%
right
of
now?
them. Because despite
Buyer's remorse right there.
an early season loss to the Niners, who are also surprisingly well this year despite their injuries.
It doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
the
And I meant
Seahawks-
that exactly how it sounded.
The Seahawks have won nearly all their games of consequence. Their only loss was to, let's see. So they lost to the Niners to start the season. They then beat the Steelers by 14, beat the Saints by 31, beat the Cardinals by a field goal, lost to the Bucks by 3, beat the Jaguars, beat the Texans, beat the Commanders, beat the Cardinals, lost to the Rams by 2. But Rams at the time were considered the best team in the league. Then they beat the Titans, and then today shut out the Vikings.
Beat the doors off the Vikings.
26-0. They play the Falcons, Colts, Rams, Panthers, 49ers to end the year.
Those last 3.
Falcons, actually, they're only what should be a gimme is Atlanta next week. It is in Atlanta. Although I think actually Seattle's been playing better on the road than at home, which is the inverse of what it was under Pete Carroll when they were challenging for Super Bowls. So they should beat the Falcons. They are better than the Falcons. But man, Colts, Rams, Panthers, 49ers is an interesting way to end the season. Hey, go 3-2 in those games and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. You'll be set up for the playoffs. So Seahawks are definitely
Perfect
surprising.
example of a team where the Rams should win that division, but like, who wants to play the Seahawks in the wild card round? Ooh.
They'd be 12-5.
Especially you said they're better on the record-wise.
I think record-wise, at least the last couple years.
Right. But like, think about that. Think about like, you win your division and like your prizes, you get the Seahawks.
Well,
to town,
So apparently Sam Darnold is an upgrade over Geno Smith, which I wasn't certain that was going to be the case.
I agree.
Excuse me. The offensive line has gotten better. They have the best receiver in the league right now in Jackson Smith and Jigba. They brought in Cooper Kupp to be the number 2 guy there.
Great number 2 guy, especially at this point.
And they have 2 stud running backs in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. And I don't know that anyone's going to pick them out with the year that Jonathan Taylor's having, or bigger names like Christian McCaffrey, or even like what James Cook has done at times in Buffalo. I don't know if Kenneth Walker's being mentioned, but when you pair him with Charbonnet and the way that Darnold and Smith and Jigba have been playing, that is a dangerous offense.
To be honest, like, and maybe this is just me being a prisoner of the moment here, this offense that they run in Seattle seems much more sustainable than the offense the Vikings were living and dying with last year.
Right.
Like, because as soon as they got pressure on him, that folded quickly last year.
Yep. So that's Seattle. The other one, Carolina Panthers.
Huge win today.
We're gonna see them play the Seahawks here coming up in a few weeks.
And this is what I had saved this real quick. Good for Bryce Young. Look, I am not a Bryce Young, like, hey, I'm a fan of Bryce Young. But the way everyone, like, immediately was like, what a bust. He's so terrible, all this stuff. Like, dude, his team was terrible.
Well, I was telling you,
his team was terrible.
When Tua was injured last year, I was like, trade for Bryce Young.
Oh, man, if you can get him cheap, because everybody's saying they should get rid of him, if you can get him, you should get him. And, look, I don't mean this against Tua or not the Vikings, Tua or the Dolphins, but, like, you could get Bryce Young on his rookie deal still, too. Like,
right.
Man, good for him. Good for him. And again, I'm not a Panthers fan. I'm not a Bryce Young fan. Not saying I'm rooting against them, but like I'm just indifferent. Hey, good for him because everybody was jumping on that like bandwagon about how bad he was so quickly, and he has turned it around, and the team has turned it around. Good for them.
Yeah, so they are 7-6 now with that win, which means they're on a bye this week as well. So they're one of the teams with the Patriots on a bye. But what a wild season. So they're 7-6, but they lost their first 2 games this season.
Yes.
Which means they're 7-4 in their last 11 because they opened the season with a loss on the road to Jacksonville and then a loss on the road to the Cardinals before this is the one that everyone was like, what? When the Panthers beat the Falcons 30-0 in week 3, their home opener. Then they got beat up by the Patriots, and people were like, oh, it was an aberration.
Right.
And this is one that gets me, they came back to beat the Dolphins at 27-24. Then the following week, they beat the Cowboys 30-27. They squeaked past the Jets 13-6. They then got hammered by the Bills before they upset the Packers before falling to the Saints. Like, this is like the Jekyll and Hyde of this team. But Dave Canales definitely has them going the right direction. They beat the Falcons again in overtime. They lost to the 49ers, but then they shock everyone and beat the Rams today, 31-28. Now, they have a bye, but then they finish with Saints, Bucks, Seahawks, Bucks. So they have not played the Bucks yet. They play them twice in the final 3 weeks.
The division's there for
They
them.
can win the division as long as they avenge the earlier 17-7 loss to the Saints.
The Bucks have been fighting injuries all year, everywhere, including Baker Mayfield, who's been getting dinged.
Right.
And like, Baker Mayfield is really good. I enjoy watching Baker play, but like if he's getting dinged, man, that on top of the other injuries they have, man.
So they're 7-6. If they go 2-2 down the stretch and go 9-8, that's a successful season for them because
my
there
goodness,
is not
yes.
an overwhelming amount of talent there that could win them division. I don't think it will. I think the Bucks probably pull away. They need to beat the Bucks at least once there, but even so, I think the Buccaneers are probably going to be the team that wins that division. It's certainly not going to be the Saints or the Falcons. It's going to be the Panthers or the Bucks, and I'm gonna guess it's going to be the Buccaneers. But man, what a year for Bryce Young to kind of figure some things out and maybe be the guy there for the future. And hey, another offseason with free agency and the draft. Canales seems to be the guy.
Yeah.
He's got them playing really well.
Yeah, good for him.
So they're my last surprising team. We touched on a couple of these other disappointing teams already. Minnesota, hey, you went with J.J. McCarthy. You never should have drafted him. He was not a round one quarterback. You're finding out the hard way. I know Kevin O'Connell was seen as like a quarterback whisperer, but you still got to have the talent.
Right. He may still be, but like you got to have somebody there. Look, like he really did it. He got Sam Darnold reestablished.
Well,
but like here, JJ McCarthy's no Sam Darnold.
People have been,
and that's a problem when you're drafted in the first round.
Right.
And look, I know this is questionable because literally the last team we were talking about, I just criticized all the people who were piling on Bryce Young and was talking about how terrible his team was. But the conditions are not the same. This was a playoff team last year, right? When Bryce Young took over the Panthers, they were terrible.
Right.
When J.J. McCarthy walked into the starting quarterback job of the Vikings, they were a playoff team last year. They let their playoff quarterback walk so that you could have the starting job.
And then got injured, promptly got injured again. Missed all of last year as your rookie
You played
year.
10 good minutes in week one, won player of the week, and have been statistically one of the worst quarterbacks in the history of the league.
Worse than Jamarcus Russell.
Over the rest of the time.
Yeah, well, but
the time that's not there, you've been injured and out.
This is the type of thing that I'm like, how do people get paid to do scouting and make football decision making because of a pick like this? Like, how do you let yourself get clouded so much by something?
Well, and I saw an interesting thing they talked about it, and they basically equated it to Mahomes because that's just one of the biggest examples here. There are others, but like Mahomes is the one because so many people come up and like, oh, these guys were taken before Mahomes and all this stuff, and these guys passed. Teams are scared to death of letting the guy who goes on to be not Mahomes but Mahomes-esque, like goes on to be the quarterback, not the number one guy, because
even
nobody
Josh
had a shot
Allen,
at them.
A bunch of teams passed on Josh Allen too.
Exactly. But they're scared to death of being the teams that let those guys slide past them when they're in perpetual need of a quarterback.
Like when teams passed on Aaron Rodgers or Dan Marino.
Yes.
Like it happens all the time.
Right.
It's going to happen. I would much rather. Honestly, I think I'd much rather have regret for not taking a guy than being bought. I mean, you're going to lose your job. Like, the McCarthy pick was terrible when it happened, and it's looking even worse now, not even 2 years in. I said I didn't want to ding teams too much for injuries. McCarthy missed times with injuries, but he's been awful when he's played. The Vikings were a 14-win team last year, 14 or 15-win team, and now they're going to not even be close to the playoffs. The Falcons expected to fight for that division.
Here's the problem. They're a 14-win team without him last year.
Right.
Like, if it was him healthy
they're saying,
last
hey,
year,
we think you're better.
Right.
I know Michael Penix got injured. He wasn't exactly lighting it up beforehand. They have some really awful losses. I know like the Panthers are better than people expected, but you can't lose 30-0.
I thought the Falcons are one of the most disappointing teams.
Absolutely.
Like
100%. So
they were supposed to compete for that division, and they're going to have...
Is Raheem Smith gone? You think they get rid of him?
I think he gets a pass because of Penix being hurt.
And Washington, I mentioned I wasn't going to ding some teams for quarterback injuries like Burrow and the Bengals, but that happened almost immediately. Jaden Daniels got some time and has come back and been back and forth. However, I think I'm putting this one on here more for others because I think both of us agree we thought the Commanders were taking a step back, that they overachieved last year.
Yes. I completely agree. And that's not to say that they aren't good or even that Jaden Daniels isn't the guy still. But, like, when last year when everybody's like, oh, this is absolutely it, we both are just like, everyone hold on. Just hold
relax.
on. And that doesn't mean that he's not going to be
No.
good. It just means
Yeah.
just relax because, like, we've seen it so many times. Just relax.
Then, of course, last up, and we can't leave without talking about them briefly. The Kansas City Chiefs are, 6-6?
Yeah, I think.
May not make the playoffs, let alone be challenging for the conference.
Win out, really, honestly.
6-6 is not going to get it done. They have been poor on offense at times. They've been poor on defense at times. It's just very, very weird to see this happening to Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but they gave up the game to the Cowboys again on Thanksgiving night. Couldn't hold on for that win. It's just been a really weird season. I mean, it starts with the season opener loss to the Chargers, then they fall to the Eagles. They get right by beating the Giants and the Ravens, but then they lose to the Jaguars. They beat the Lions and the Raiders, who doesn't, and the Commanders. But then they lose to the Bills and the Broncos. They squeak past the Colts and then lose to the Cowboys. Now, the schedule doesn't get any easier, Justin. They host the Texans, winners of 4 in a row. They host the Chargers, who have already beaten them once this year. They go to Tennessee before hosting Denver on Christmas night, and then finishing with the Raiders. So obviously they have to beat Tennessee and Las Vegas, and they'll be 8-6.
Right.
But then you have to probably win 2 of the other 3 against the Texans, the Chargers, and the Broncos.
Right.
All of those which are at home. So the 2 must-wins are on the road. So, hopefully that doesn't throw a monkey wrench into their plans to win those games, but you got to beat the Titans and the Raiders. Texans, Chargers, Broncos, the 7th, the 14th, and 25th. You probably got to win 2. You probably have to go 4-1.
I know this sounds crazy because they're on the verge of not making the playoffs. But let's say they go 4-1 and make the playoffs.
Who wants to play
and they
them?
end up as the 7th seed. Imagine being the 2 seed and your reward is you get to host the Patriots in the first round.
Well, and who would that probably be?
Right now?
New England would be the 1, right?
Right.
So, it could be like Denver.
I was going to say, it could be Denver or
Or
about like
Jacksonville.
Imagine Jacksonville hosting the Chiefs in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, and they already played this year, didn't they? Yeah, the Jaguars beat them by 3.
Right.
Hey.
Yeah, but imagine Denver. Imagine if that's their one loss, and all of a sudden now your prize is you have to play them again.
Yeah.
A third time, including a third time in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, or sorry, 2 times in like 3 weeks. Oh man, it'd be interesting.
It will be very interesting. So, well, Justin and I will be back in 1 week on Sunday, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, Brian's birthday. We will talk Week 14 NFL action. Got a couple teams on bye, most teams playing, and things will start to come into focus. Can my Dolphins continue their winning ways against the Jets? Will the Eagles get back in the win column? Who does Philly play?
I don't even know, honestly.
Excuse me. We know Thursday will be electric with Dallas at Detroit. So all good things coming up here as we move into December.
Eagles play next Monday night.
Oh, okay.
They go to the Chargers.
Ooh, Eagles at Chargers next Monday. So
Be
we will
interesting
not.
to see if Justin Herbert, who left today's game,
But he came back.
Okay,
Or did he leave again?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. I only heard he went out.
So when we're back in the show, we will not have any info on the Eagles. Everyone will still be mad at coaching or Jalen Hurts or A.J. Brown or Saquon Barkley or the offensive line or the injuries or whatever. I'm sure everything will be rational for the next week on
as I
Philadelphia
just started going
radio.
off on my text the other night, and I was like, I'm just sorry. I just had to get off my chest. But then, to be fair, I let it go after that. That was it.
So I was driving at the time, so I saw it coming in, and I saw that you were becoming increasingly unstable. And by the time I got to it, you were like, I just had to vent.
Perfect.
So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us on episode 424 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. We'll be back on December 7th for episode 425, talking more pro football and perhaps a new Penn State football head coach.
Dear God, I hope so.
We will find out.
I need this to end.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you in a week.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as The Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.